Hey everybody, it's Spencer Hakimian and welcome back to another episode of What's Moving Your Money. On today's episode, we are going to be covering three important topics. Topic one is going to be the exploding budget deficit here in the United States in 2025. Topic two is going to be why Doge ultimately failed. And topic three is going to be Trump's nomination to be the head of the BLS, E.J. Antoni, some of the preliminary comments that he's made, some that are quite alarming. So stay tuned, sit back, and I hope you enjoy. So yesterday we got news that the deficit for July came in at over $300 billion for the month. That is annualized a $3.6 trillion deficit on an economy that is roughly $30 trillion in size. So we are close to running a 12% deficit on our entire economy. What is causing this deficit? Well, it is quite mechanistic. Spending, which was $650 billion for the month, is up 10% from last year. On the other hand, tax receipts, including tariffs, are only up 2%. Now that led to an overall deficit that was up 20% for the month of July. 20%. We are talking about runaway numbers at this point. We are currently spending more on interest payments than we are on the military. Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare are only going to grow in expenditures over time as our nation ages. At the same time, we keep passing new policies that cut tax receipts, whether it's lower corporate taxes, whether it's no tax on Social Security, whether it's no tax on tip and overtime. You name it, we are doing it. Both sides of this equation are moving in the wrong direction away from us here in the United States. And what is the ultimate effect of all of this? It is that we are going to be passing 40, 50, 60, 70 trillion dollars of debt to the upcoming generation of American workers. We are taking all the benefits now as a society and leaving everyone else with the side effects. These side effects are going to include higher bond yields, a weaker dollar, more instability, crowding out effect of private productive investments, and an overall economy that is permanently in need of massive stimulus so that it does not inevitably end up in recession. One other very critical thing that is worth discussing with the deficit is that tariffs, although we are collecting record tariff revenue, it is hardly putting a dent in this. We are collecting $30 billion per month in tariff revenue, and we are in a $300 billion hole. All the tariff revenue did is it offset the weakness that came from extending the Tax Cut and Jobs Act in the big beautiful bill. We are not even a net gain from these tariffs. We just offset another policy that Trump had passed. Anyone that knows me and anyone that follows this channel knows that I blame both parties equally for this. Neither party wants to stop spending, and neither party wants to get serious about raising taxes in an effective way so that we can actually balance this scenario. In my opinion, we're going to have to lower entitlement spending to an extent. Simultaneously, we are going to have to raise taxes. There is simply no other way. We have such an imbalance between our spending and our tax receipts. We have to fix both sides of the equation. One or the other will not work at this point. We do not get $300 billion per month in the hole because of one mistake. It's because of dozens of mistakes made by dozens of people over dozens of years. That is the honest truth, and until we accept that, we're never going to get real about this problem. Now, let's do a little bit of a diagnostic on Doge, because at this point, I think it's safe to say, and it's universal, Doge failed, right? Doge did not save $2 trillion. Doge did not cut government spending in any significant manner. Doge had two fundamental problems from the onset. Number one was that Doge came in making outlandish promises to people. It promised to save $2 trillion when we already know that Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, defense, and interest is roughly about $6 trillion. There's only $1 trillion of other things that were left to cut. How could you cut $2 trillion out of $1 trillion possibly available? Not to mention that $1 trillion out of the $7.5 trillion is the most productive spending that our government does. That is grants to private businesses. That is investments into higher education. That is investments into R&D. That is investments into subsidizing chip production in the United States. That is the best quality money that we spend. And we couldn't even shed a little bit of that. Now, the other issue that Doge ran into was that Doge was doing this crusade of we are going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. Fraud and abuse is a very loaded term. I mean, to think that somehow 25% of the US government budget was fraudulent and no one spoke about it until Elon Musk came around was such a nonsense idea to begin with. And as we saw, there was no fraud at all. We haven't prosecuted anyone for fraud. There doesn't apparently seem like there was much abuse, but let's call it waste because that's a less charged term. There was minimal waste actually found. I mean, how much was it? Maybe $15 billion out of a $7 trillion budget? That is equivalent to a family that spends $50,000 per year finding $10 worth of waste or overspending in their budget. If anything, the budget is actually pretty well ran. The problem is our priorities are out of line. Our problem is that we are spending way more than we're earning. Our problem is that we have champagne taste on a beer budget. That is the real problem, right? If we want to fix this, we have to get real with ourselves and say that we have been overspending on our citizens for too long and on foreign affairs and on you name it. And simultaneously, we have not been charging enough for these services. We are running in the red. We are running at a loss. Yes, we are a country. Yes, we have our own central bank. Yes, we can print our own currency. So no, we will not hard default like a family or a business or an individual might. But yes, we will pay the price. We will pay the price with inflation. We will pay the price with a weaker currency. We will pay the price with higher bond yields. We will continue paying the prices for our fiscal irresponsibility from both parties. Now, before we go here, let's quickly talk about E.J. Antoni, who was Trump's nomination to head the BLS. Now, I don't want to get too much into his credentials. I'm sure you can read about it online. There's not all that much credentials relative to his predecessor, but one highly alarming thing that E.J. Antoni suggested on Fox Business that was truly something we have to nip in the bud ASAP. We cannot be talking like this. Is he suggested suspending the monthly job report until they can figure out what is wrong with it. Now, believe me, I've been on Wall Street long enough. That is not a coincidence. He is saying that because the evidence is clear that the labor market is slowing, and they want to hide any evidence of a slowing economy because it goes against their, MO and how they talk about these things politically. But in the event that we suspend the government jobs report, you are going to lose credibility on all the other reports that you put out. The inflation report, the GDP report, housing prices, you name it. Every data point is going to be assumed to be tainted. It's going to be assumed to be massaged. It's going to be assumed that it was meddled with for political reasons. No one will believe it. And if our credibility as a country falls, we again will pay the price. Foreigners will invest elsewhere. Americans will invest elsewhere. If you cannot get reliable economic data, how do you invest in that country? And by the way, don't think this stops here. We have an election every 4 years in the United States. Let's say the other party wins in 3 years. They're going to use this as precedence to nominate someone that they want. And what if, as an example, a Democrat president wanted to run inflation very hot to get some more social spending going? What if they just fire their BLS chair and say, hey, if you want this job, we got to stop putting out inflation reports for the next year, 2 years. this is a bad path. It's a bad precedent, and we should nip it in the bud ASAP. That's all my time for today, guys. I can't wait to see you guys on Friday. We're going to have a lot to cover. There is a mountain of economic data coming out, retail sales, producer price inflation, and more. So I can't wait to see you guys soon.